Mr. Tim Wilson, welcome along to the Maxim Institute podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here. Please, not so familiar. I need a bit
Yes,
more
sir.
formality.
Today we're talking about trust, or maybe more accurately, the lack thereof it. The Acumen Edelman Trust Barometer has come out. So let's start with the headline.
Yeah.
What stuck out to you? Because to me, New Zealand being categorised as a distrust society for the first time seems pretty significant.
It's actually one level above that, which is we have been a society with increasing distrust, but now we're being. It's been revealed that we're a grievance society as well. So that means that there are a large group of people, and by the survey, let me just pull back a bit about the Acumen Edelman Trust Barometer. What they do is they survey about 1,100 Kiwis, good statistical basis for that, and then they rank it globally. So they take segments out of other populations globally, and they compare us. So we are 67% of us express a grievance with business, government, media, NGOs, and the wealthy. Now, the problem with that, one of the many problems, actually, I'll frame it, is that the world average is 61%. So we're actually world beaters in misery and self-pity. Wow.
Man. So how does the sense of hopelessness then connect to a level of distrust? Because one of the key stats out of the survey was that just 19% of New Zealanders believe the next generation will be better off. That's alarmingly low.
Yeah, it is. It is, particularly when you compare it with a country like, say, for example, Kenya, where more than half of those surveyed are positive about the next generation's prospects. Not as bad as France, where it's actually less than 1 in 10. But we all know that France is a bit of a basket. Well, not we all know, but I think we're pretty aware that France is a bit of a basket case. Don't want to be like them. When you have a grievance society, it means that those were, and the Acumen Edelman assessment's quite good because it differentiates. There is low-level grievance, high-level grievance, but people with high-level grievances really, really don't see things as they are. And so there's this sense that those groups are actually actively oppressing the lives and controlling for their own gain, the lives of ordinary people. And as you say, that plays out. It's like, well, where's the optimism for the future? Where's the sense of hope? And society needs hope. We need hope to be able to say, you know what, I'll endure this because I think things will get better. If you think things will get worse, you're going to stay in bed, order Domino's, and turn the phone off.
So it's not simply a case that we've got a cost of living challenge, that life is difficult, but actually there's a sense among the population. And as I actually read, it's not just the poorer portions of our population who feel that, but actually there's this growing sense of distrust and abandonment from some of our more wealthy portions of the population that actually business and government are working for their own interests and actively against others. Can this distrust that we're increasingly experiencing in New Zealand have any hidden upsides to it?
Where's the upside?
Because,
right?
I mean, we're always looking for the hopeful angle because hope does exist, but it does need to be found and grabbed with both hands. We've got the sense of distrust. That's not a great thing. When you think about trust in police, well, that's quite an important thing. Trust in government, okay, well, they legislate, they create these laws. You have to trust that the courts will offer fair sentences down and judge impartially. So trust is really important, and that's what we're saying. But is there a sense in which there is redemption here with this distrust? How can that be? Is there any hope here is what I'm asking.
Yeah, and I don't want to be a Pollyanna, but I think there's one statistic that jumped out at me at the last year's Acumen Edelman Trust Barometer, which is our distrust as a nation in social media. We're actually world champions at distrusting social media. Now that level of trust in social, or like the level of trust, i.e. the size of distrust, has actually increased in social media. So 28% of us trusted social media in the previous survey. That's now down to 20%. So there's been almost a 1/4 drop in that. I think that's a positive, Josiah, because we need to look at social media through distrusting eyes. It's not mediated, it's democratized, it's content, it's hot takes. Not this discussion, by the way. This is measured and thoughtful. But having said that, I would expect that people would go, oh, if they don't like it, they'll think, well, what can I distrust here? What can I trust? Because active distrust is actually, if you handle it properly, it's a search for the truth. So what's the truth here? And I think so when you think about, okay, so we do distrust social media, which we should, we're actively seeking the truth. Are there other ways that distrust can be productive in our society? And I think that's actually, as long as it's handled correctly, that's got to be a positive.
You mentioned that malice and rancor is what's left as our sense of agency erodes. How then do
our agency and hope, etc., as that erodes?
That's right, because we have this sense, or many of us do, that actually there are interest groups working against our own. How do we then approach distrust in a healthy way where we can get to the bottom of the matter, to get to truth? Because that's what trust is premised upon, is truth. If you tell me something, I trust you, I believe it's true. But if it's not true and I understand actually Tim's not telling me the truth, well then the trust isn't there anymore. It's distrust, it's gone.
Yeah. And I think what you need to do, so if we look at the news cycle, for example, you can say, okay, well, there's something, it pays to go beyond the headlines in any instance and look for, is there something here that actually resonates with this? There was Tamitha Paul, the Green MPs, received a lot of, I would say, reasonable castigation for some of her statements about the police. But in that session that she did for O Week at a university, she also said police, they get a lot of mental health call-outs, and people who are in a predicament because of their poor mental health. Now, if they had access to mental health teams, then they would, and there's something there, they would be able to do their job better. So in terms of, okay, so what I'm saying is, okay, I distrust this bit, but I can see a resonance here with this other part. I agree that's, so you don't just completely write everything off, I think is important. And it's the same with, and this is where we think about our democracy. Democracy needs trust to be able to work properly. So if a government is voted out, we need to trust that they will vacate their offices, not spike the economic mixture as they leave, not call in the army to prevent their offices being taken from them. There's a certain level of trust, but we also require some distrust. And democracy functions on distrust because it's a mistake to believe that politicians will always have your best interests at heart. And Dr. Steph Warboys, who works here at Maxim Institute, did a great paper about that and highlighting that there's a part that can be played for, I would say, balanced and reasonable distrust. Not that reflexive, grievance-based distrust, like, oh, you're out to get me. It's like, okay, no. I don't agree with this part. I will take this part though because I think it's useful. Let's move with that. Let's move towards that.
Yeah, the goal in that instance is truth and working toward that.
It's truth,
wherever it's coming from.
And also not what part of this is true for me, because I discount the notion of subjective truth. What is objectively true here? And one of the stats, going back to the police number, is that there was just a stat where a huge number of those who were tasered were actually having mental health episodes. So it's like, okay, no, I get that. I get the argument because it's objectively validated. I just made up a word. You caught me out.
Toward the end of your column, you bring in a political theorist named Samuel Huntington, and you talk about his idea of creedal passion, these cycles of disillusionment and renewal. That resonates with me. Could this be happening here? Could we be headed for a time of a kind of renewal?
I think we need to look for, it's possible, let's put it that way. But what are the signposts that are saying we are headed towards that end goal of renewal? And Samuel Hunting's interesting because he was talking about America, and he was saying that the American political system goes through, as you mentioned, cycles of cynicism, and then complacency, then hypocrisy, and that's when they arrive at those paroxysms, if you like, of creedal passion. I.e., what is it that we can renew here? And the American Revolution in the 1770s was just an example of that. Is that applicable in New Zealand? Very different political arrangements. But I think it's something that we need to think about. I mean, when I go back to our distrust of social media, I think that's a positive. We're world beaters at distrusting social media. It should be distrusted. That's the right way to look at it. It doesn't mean that everything's a lie on there, but you just filter. It's what we would expect. It's a citizen's duty in some sense. So I'm going to say that the rising level of distrust needs to be taken in the light of our distrust of social media, the fact that distrust is a basis for an effective and functioning democracy. I am concerned about the grievance aspect, but let's keep looking for truth. The truth will set you free.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Tim, for your thoughts, and a good reminder that amid the distrust that actually there is hope to be found here, because distrust presupposes a search for truth, or at least it should, for it to be constructive. So Thank you for your thoughts and your time on the podcast today.
My pleasure, Josiah. Thank you. Sobering news sluices from the latest Acumen Edelman Trust Barometer. In 2025, we've gone from being a country of rising distrust to one dominated by grievance. The annual survey, which quizzed 1,150 Kiwis, sets the results in a global context. Get this, 67% of us express a grievance with business, government, media, NGOs, and the wealthy. This unfortunate statistic also, unfortunately, outdoes the world average of 61%. So, we're world beaters in misery and self-pity. Want more bad news? Business is usually trusted more than government or media. Not anymore. This year, for the first time, no institutions are trusted at all. The fact that distrust has coagulated into grievance is, well, poisonous. As Acumen Edelman report, this sentiment is characterized by the belief, or more accurately, misbelief, that business, government, media, and other influential forces are actively working against ordinary people. The mentality is one of victimization of one group by an institution or the system. As trust recedes and the sense of agency erodes, what's left is malice and rancor. Hope duly departs. Indeed, another finding from the survey shows that optimism for the next generation is alarmingly low. Less than 1 in 5 of us believe the next generation will be better off. Not as bad as France, where it's less than 1 in 10, but way off Kenya, where more than half are positive about the next generation's prospects. So let's press in on distrust for a moment. No question, it's toxic when deployed reactively and cynically. But when correctly framed, distrust can be useful. Take social media. New Zealanders view it with deep suspicion. Only 20% of us trust it, according to Acumen Edelman, down 8% from last year. Wise. Anyone familiar with platforms like X, TikTok, Facebook, or Instagram would agree. This isn't just rational, it's often necessary. The same holds true when it comes to democracy. As Maxim Institute's Dr. Stephanie Warboys noted in her paper on trust in New Zealand, while democracy depends on trust, quote, strangely democracy also depends on distrust. Democracy is a form of government that has its genesis in distrust. It proceeds from the view that it is a mistake to completely trust political elites to serve the common person's interests. This calls to mind the American political theorist Samuel Huntington. Huntington believed the US endured cycles of cynicism, complacency, then hypocrisy, before paroxysms of what he called creedal passion. Such bouts included the 1770s, the time of the American Revolution, and the revolt against the crown. as well as the 1990s, when Theodore Roosevelt and the progressives led a revolt against, quote, the interests and the system. One defining feature of such times, Huntington wrote, was widespread discontent. Quote, authority, hierarchy, specialization, and expertise were widely questioned or rejected, close quote. Sound familiar? America may be different, but could renewal be coming for New Zealand too? So go ahead. Distrust the headlines, distrust your social media feed, hell, distrust Grievance, and distrust me if you like, but do it thoughtfully and with humility. The premise of trust is truth. Will you seek it?